Okay, Mishlei 21, which we've been doing for the last 2 days. Leitz Let's just jump right back into the Metzudas David, and spend a little bit of time with that. Then I want to do Rabbeinu Yonah, and then if we have time, I want to do the metaphorical interpretation, or see how far we can get with that. So Metzudas David said, Leitz hayayin. So he says, Shose hayayin hu leitz. One who drinks wine is a. And we said, really? Like, does he mean that all people who drink wine are scoffers? If he doesn't mean that, then what does he mean? Because he doesn't spell it out. He makes it sound like it's a definition, and you can't read it the other way. You can't read that a Leitz drinks wine, because he's saying Shosei Yain who Leitz. He is a Leitz, And then the Shosei Hashechar Yeheme v'yitzak b'shikrusa. One who drinks hard alcohol will cry out and yell in his drunkenness, okay, which is also weird, because that's not even saying, like, Shosei Hayayin hu Leitz, that's like defining him. But then Shosei Shechar Yehema v'yitzak b'shikrusa, that's like an action that he's going to do, and that's not even personality side. Like, what's it saying? What's the relationship between the two halves? It's obvious. The second half is obvious, or the second half of the first half is obvious, right? Obviously, people like make lots of noise and are boisterous when they're drunk. Okay, then v'chol shogabo, anyone who errs in it, rotzalomar, and this is going back specifically to the wine, one who errs in it, rotzalomar, meaning to say, kol mi sheyishke bo b'da'ato lachshav hoil v'hayayin mefakeach arbe im kain b'shesiyaso, someone who drinks it thinking that since the Gemara, or since the phenomenon is such that wine makes you clever, arbe im kain b'shesiyaso, then I'm going to drink a lot. So so in truth, he's not going to get smart. And he's not going to get wise. Even if a little bit of it is good for becoming smart, or I keep on saying smart, I'll tell you why in a second. Rubo kasha. Then the majority is, having a lot of it is harsh. So I looked up the Gemara, and the Gemara is in Yuma Ayin Vav Amud Beis. Let me just get it back on the. Thank you. Let me get it on the. Did I close the window?
What's given?
That's the Rubo Kasha. Yeah. So the Gemara says like this. Here you go. Where did it go? Okay, the Gemara is a weird one. Rav Kahana Rami. Rav Kahana brought a contradiction. Ksiv Tirosh. Right, so tirosh is in the is a word for wine, right? The Karinan, sorry, it's written tirash, but we read it as tirosh. Okay, so what's the interpretation of that? This is a drasha, obviously. Zacha nase rosh. If you are meritorious, which Rashi says, Zacha lishtos lefi hamida, lefi mida. If you drink it in measure, okay. So then nase rosh, you become a head, not a head. Shemafakeach libo b'chachma, that your mind becomes smart with chachma. Okay, pikeach. Okay, then lo zacha, but if not, nase rash. But if not, then you become poor. Okay, meaning that you become like impoverished in terms of knowledge, meaning you become less intelligent. Okay, so that's part. That what was it. Okay, then it says Rami. So there's another contradiction. Ktiv Yishamach, the Korean Yisamach. So it's about wine. Yain Yisamach Lavav Enosh, but apparently it's written Yishamach. Okay, so how do you reconcile that? Zacha Misamcho. If you are meritorious, then it makes you rejoice. Lo Zacha Mishamamo. If not, it makes you desolate. And then here's the phrase. This is what Rava said. Chamra v'richani pikrin. That wine and good aromas make you smart. So it's not just wine, it's good aromas. So how do we interpret this Gemara? It has to be wine and good aromas. Yeah. So so I don't know if that's going to help us or whatever, but that's what the Gemara is that he's referencing. So the questions we asked are, first of all, what does that Gemara mean? How does a little bit of wine make you smart? We know how a lot of wine makes you not smart. But how does a little bit make you smart? Secondly, like, it's an oddly specific thing to interpret the second half of the pasuk that way. Like, it's talking about a specific rationalization for drinking wine, that it's going to make me wiser, and we started to interpret that saying like that's a category of rationalizations, but we're not really sure where to take it. And then what is the first half saying? What does it have anything to do with the second half? Those are our questions.
I wonder, so in my mind, it went to like the kind of like the symbolism idea, but I was thinking like before trying to go down that route, maybe I could apply the same thing on a like a non-symbolism way, and then later if we wanted to,
I would like that. Yeah.
So I think that if one looks at wine as like a way to loosen the tongue, like there's like I feel like you might have even quoted it here before, like there's different ways truths come out, I don't know if you did, but like there's like anger, there's wine, I don't know.
Yeah, kiso, koso, kaso. I don't think I quoted it, but maybe we talked about it indirectly. Right. That I forgot what the Gemara actually says in terms of like the intro to this, but there's three things that like something, kiso, koso, and kaso. Your kis is your wallet, like where you spend your money. Koso is your cup, which is what you're like when you're drunk, and then kaso is your anger.
Those two things. What?
That's what I didn't know.
Let me
look it up.
Character, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I had a teacher in Rishit who added kadura when you're playing ball.
Yeah, let me just look it up before you go on with that observation. B'shlosha devarim adam nicker. With three things, a person is just recognizable, meaning like it shows a person. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's this element of in order to progress, maybe there's an element of self-discovery that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like confronting things that you're not looking at directly within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And on a literal level, if a person has a little bit of wine when they're talking with their friend or when they're having an idea type conversation at a drop mill or whatever it is, it can maybe create a loosening of a barrier in their mind that was fixed before and allow them to maneuver through it to like see themselves or to like make some progression in their mind. But if a person takes it to mean that wine means progression rather than like there's a very subtle small way to use or progression, and then you're just like wine, then you're like completely miss the boat of like what you're trying to do. And that's where like you're erring and like not knowing.
Okay, so that general approach, I think the specifics we're still gonna have to work out, but the general approach is kind of in line with what we said yesterday also, which is that the mistake is I think yesterday we put it in terms of extreme versus like a particular, but this is more in terms of, is it the substance or is it the use of the substance?
Right. Yeah, I do think it definitely overlaps, but I was just framing it that way because I think it fits into how we're talking about being clever. Yeah. Meaning because in order to gain like wisdom and a broader understanding, sometimes you need to pass certain blocks in your own mind. Right. And so that's like where we can.
Okay, so let me compare that with the way I was thinking about it, which is I don't know if it's just two manifestations of the same thing or if it's a different phenomenon. I was actually thinking about our humor here last week, and like how one of the functions of humor is it
keep your body balanced.
Keep your body balanced.
Oh,
I get it. A little slow there this morning. Yeah. Okay. I should have used the word phlegmatic instead of slow. That would have been good. The bodily humors. Yeah. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. We said that when you joke around before shear, or even during shear, then there's a certain playful loosening of the mind, which can allow for intuitive connections that aren't usually made, and definitely alcohol can do the same thing, is that it makes you more associative and intuitive in your thinking. Now, the problem is if you go too far, so then either the associations will not be guided by the inquiry, like it's just like association, like free associations, or it'll be overridden by instinctual or psychological, factors, or you won't be able to exercise the analytical part of your mind, So it's like you need to loosen it. There's no point where you loosen it to the point where everything just unravels, and then you can't like exercise your thinking at all, Yeah.
the other thing I was thinking is that there's some like like nervousness or things like that will make a person not able to learn. Let's say like a person is like embarrassed to speak up.
Yeah.
Then they won't, in a vice moment.
Yeah.
But like with like a little bit of like loosening up of like I said, like the grip of those emotions.
Yeah.
Rewind like that can.
Yeah.
No, not too much.
No, I'm smiling because like there's a distinct point in every Purim Suda, I think, where like where like it's like when or at least every Purim Suda here, where like they actually like people who are hosting the Suda try to give over an idea. Like I'd say like maybe a quarter of the way in when people have already had stuff to drink, and then like it's a real idea, but then there's always some people who are already like drunk, and then like there's a good conversation in that people will be more loose in terms of saying stuff, but then it slowly descends into like completely not actual productive like thinking. I was just laughing at that memory. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is good for that. We really got to figure out the first half of this though. So I feel like we have intuitions about the second half now, but I feel like we have to really,
Wise House have read Shote Hayayin who Leitz, meaning like Shote Hayayin, uppercase Shin, uppercase Hey, like the drinker of wine. That's what's a guy who's drinking wine at this moment. A guy who
that's a good reading. That's a good reading. A drinker of wine. Okay, good. That's good. I accept that. Yeah. That actually reads into the words. And shows the chef. Okay, fine. So that brings it closer, right? So now what we're talking about is, so then now according to this, the pasuk is comparing two categories of people. There's the people who are drinkers, and then there's the person who is using the wine. He thinks he's using the wine for a particular purpose, but he's really misusing it. Yeah.
So I wonder if then we could say like, because it seems like it's repeating itself. So what is the purpose of like wine and alcohol?
Yeah.
So it could be, now that he's saying that the wine references that pasuk.
Yeah.
So it could be that there's like two clear motivations. So like one is that like he really scoffs this idea. Like he scoffs the idea of wine making you clever and like not something that he really believes in.
Yeah.
But he's now using this as a way to cry out for alcohol.
Like, is that what we using this mean? What's this? The
meaning like,
excuse?
Like, oh well, like this will make me smart.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
All right, I like that idea. All right, can you some more,
Yeah. Something is cumbersome to me about the saying that the first half is talking about the second. I mean, I hear it.
I can tell you one weakness in this thing is that it sounds like when the Metzudas David is talking about like he's using this pasuk.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's really using it.
Yeah.
Not like he really thinks, some part of his mind really thinks this is going to work out.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, certainly the guy in the second half. I'm still kind of open to saying in the first half maybe it's like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Meaning you want to split meaning because.
I mean, you were reading it like one of the readings we played around with yesterday that that this is the thing that he says, right? That the Leitz, the wine drinker and the hard alcohol drinker says, oh, I'm sorry, it's not the thing he says, for what I'm saying. Never mind, I'm mixing it up. Yeah. Hold on, you saying something, it triggered a thought. Give me 1 second. So maybe could we say this? The guy in the second half, he thinks he's going to be smart, but he's going to end up in one of two states. Either he's going to end up like if he drinks a lot of wine, either he's going to end up indulging his Leitz characteristics, meaning the unrestrainedness. What? Leitzness. Or he's going to end up just being a drunkard, like acting like the drunkard of just shouting out and being unrestrained.
So it's really all about.
It's all about the second half, and then the first half is just saying like what's going to happen to him. The ordering is a little weird, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is that like, that look at this guy who's a Leitz, who's a wine drinker and who's a Leitz, and look at that guy who's a wine drinker who's just like stumbling over drunk. You think you're going to be making yourself smart with this? What are you actually doing? Like that's, and that might be why he doesn't really elaborate on the first half, and he's only elaborating on the second half. The first half is just like the consequences or the actuality,
I feel like they could also explain the order, because he's sort of saying, like, now from Shlomo, like through this perspective,
Yeah.
he's saying that like there is a path with alcohol that can lead to like wisdom, but like every other path is gonna not get you there.
Right.
So he's like giving two examples of like
Right.
these are like kind of gonna mess up.
Right.
Now all other things that are not the one good path
Yeah.
are also gonna not work.
And I feel like it's a good way to identify this, because what's going to happen if this guy is honest with himself and he realizes that every time he sits down for his chavrusa and like they all get drunk, and he ends up like being a Leitz, or he ends up being like a crazy drunk, then like it's pretty identifiable. Like, how do you know that you've erred if you end up like the first half, Yeah. So now let's broaden the application to other stuff, because we mentioned that the pasuk is only talking about wine, but this could apply to other stuff also. Yeah.
Before we get there,
Yeah.
It just seems, is this really a thing people do? Like, I'm gonna drink so that it'll help me think better.
Right. So what I was saying is that I don't know what the practices were back then, but certainly creative people do this. And also, like, people do this with other substances now that there are other substances available now. That's totally like the case. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely a phenomenon of people like saying like, oh, I'll like have like a shot or two to boost my courage or something, and then
Right.
they end up like getting like totally drunk and like,
Yeah. Right.
and, like it's very destructive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Meaning this could be in areas other than getting wise.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning like, yeah, let's say like you're going to a bar and like you think that if you work up your courage, then you'll get a girl, and you end up just like being a total slobbering drunk, insulting misogynist, and like, why isn't this working? Yeah, right.
I guess part of that question of like, do people use this triggered the thought of like, how do people use it, and why I was leaning towards saying it had to do with like internal blocks.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like a lot of substance like usage and abusage comes from that desire and like confidence people have, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll be able to like address
Right.
this internal truth. And in reality, like, that is a bit missing the point. Meaning, like, it's not saying that they're 100% wrong.
Yeah.
But like the way they're doing, like, there is maybe one path amongst the 1,000 that's like could
Right.
work. But like it's the confidence that like, oh, this will work, and now you're just on any random.
Yeah, and it's a seductive rationalization, because like this is a real phenomenon, and like
Right.
and you might have even experienced the real phenomenon of like opening your mind through a certain thing, but at the end of the day, if you can't control it, then you'll end up in one of these like two bad directions. Yeah.
Also, might be what I was saying, I'm not sure. But there's also a difference between a guy who's like, let's say he opens up a Mishlei, he wants to learn Mishlei, he goes, and I'm also going to sit down with a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Versus a guy who's just like in a situation where there is wine.
Yeah.
And then he decides, okay, I'm going to have a glass for a productive purpose.
Yes, that's also true. Right. I hear that distinction. Yeah. Yeah, that could reveal like what the rationalization is. When you sit, guy who sits down with Mishlei for that, who did this? Shlomo.
Oh, yeah.
In Kohelet. If you remember early in the year, he did this is in his experiment. So phase 1 was Chochmah, phase 2 was the party lifestyle. So both those didn't work out. And then the third one is, he says, Tarti belibi limshoch bayayin es besari, vilibi noheg b'chochmah. So I explored with my heart to be drawn after wine, to make my flesh drawn after wine, but my mind was conducting itself in Chochmah. The lechos b'sichlus, and if the way we learned it there, I think it was Ibn Ezra or who said this, but basically like in his second phase, he went all out on the party lifestyle to escape from Chochmah. And then the third phase, he tried to balance them, meaning that he's going to be involved in Chochmah and having wine, not to the point of drunkenness, but just to the point where he can like enjoy himself, and like it can like add like a pleasant buzz or whatever, and like he tried that, and that didn't work for a different reason, but he was the one who did that, so he probably learned Mishlei during that time. Yeah. Okay, so let's. I think this is good enough for now. I'm sure we can sharpen it more, but I do want to do Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so let's do Rabbeinu Yonah.
You were saying you were going to run.
Oh, I did broaden it with the I was going to say broadening it with the other substances, and then the artistic examples. Yeah. And again, that's how it started. Like they start off, I need to drink, or I need to use these things in order to get creative, and like, yeah, it worked, and then they destroy their lives. Yeah,
I guess the way it has sort of the thing is that the metric that you can use to tell if it's an issue is if people who are just using it because they want to use it are like are exhibiting the same symptoms that you are.
Right.
That means you're probably not.
Correct. And here's the thing also is, let's say, like a lot of these creative people also, they do get creative and they're destroying their lives, meaning that it might actually be working for the purposes that they're doing, but it still might not be the advisable path. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a songler, fine artist. He's like very self-aware, and he like knows that he's like addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And he basically says, if it wasn't for the pills, I wouldn't be here.
Mhm.
But if I keep taking the pills, I won't be here.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's like what got him there, but it's also going to be his downfall.
Right.
Then he overdosed.
There you go. He was right.
He was right.
And he's not here anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Rabbeinu Yonah in the middle right column. Yeah, middle right column. Leitz hayayin home shekhar v'kol shogeg b'lo yecham. Leitz ish hayayin home ish shekhar. Kamo v'ani tefila shehu ish tefila. Okay, so he says you have to add in the word ish. So a Leitz is a wine guy. A home, a crier outer, is a hard alcohol guy, and David is a tefillah guy. Okay, yeah, it's just a pasuk bringing for linguistic proof, right? Ani tefillah, I am tefillah. No, you're not, but you could be a tefillah guy. Lufi shedibir al haleitim v'amar nachonu laleitim shvatim. Since Shlomo was speaking about leitim in the previous pasuk, that judgments are befitting for the Leitz, or punishments are befitting for the Leitz. Now it's coming to inform us of one of the causes that gives rise in a person to the trait of leitzanus. In order that a person should guard himself from this cause, because it's the cause of something bad like this. And he says, the man of wine is a Leitz. Holedus hayayin lifrok ol halev. We said a lot of these ideas before, but he says one of the natural results of wine is it causes you to cast off the yoke of the heart, meaning it causes you to be uninhibited. Leitzanus he prikas ol. And what is leitzanus? It's a casting off the yoke. Leitzim are uninhibited, and wine makes you uninhibited. Al-Kain, therefore, nimshach achar hayayin, therefore he will be drawn. Maybe this is where I got my idea now that I think about it. Therefore he will be drawn after the wine, lifrok ha'ol me'alavavot, in order to cast off the yoke from his heart. V'yishalach l'shono l'chol avas nafsho, and in order to cast forth his tongue in accordance with his every desire, and words of making fun of people and mockery and cursing. Uksiv, and it says ve'al tislotzu ve'ata al tislotzu pen yechas kumos rechem. So Yeshayahu says, do not mock lest you strengthen your bonds. Okay, that's a separate idea. I don't want to go into that. I have to look that up in context, which I haven't done yet. Home shefar. Okay, so far he's saying, I guess, the first half of my idea that Leitz is indulging, someone who indulges in like this unrestrained aggression in speech, and when you drink and you become drunk, then that makes you less inhibited, and then you just like say stuff, right? So a person might like be drawn to drinking in order to put themselves into that state. The only difference between what I was saying and what this is saying is that I was saying that this is what the Leitz himself does. This is saying an average person can do this. It's more like Ariel's idea. Average person can do this. I like how, since Ariel isn't here to re-articulate his idea, it's become like the chameleon, like that like, oh, he was clearly saying like the right idea, and like I have no idea what he was actually saying anymore.
I think it was like what he was saying.
Okay, good. So either you're falling prey to the same trap, or you're actually.
What you were saying, I was saying. I thought.
Oh, that's right. You.
I think it was like what I was saying.
Right, that's true. So you might be falling to the same trap. Yeah. But meaning.
I was saying further that
yeah.
the wine is Leitz.
Right. So you're drawn into the wine in order to, and then that'll make you indulge in your Leitz-like things. Okay. Now it gets a little difficult. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Home shechar. There are three characteristics mentioned about a person who is a wine and alcohol man. Okay, the gum, and also, wait, is there a footnote here that's helpful? Oh, I got to get the good edition of Rabbeinu Yonah. Do I have one here? No. Okay, okay, we might, whatever. So even at the time when he does not mock people, he cries out and is verbose. Like someone who's like talking too much. And anyone who speaks excessively brings a sin upon himself, or meaning like he makes mistakes. And also he will not succeed in Chochmah, ki hayayin yashlis hadas, because wine impairs the mind. Al kain kol shoge lishos yain tami. Therefore, anyone who errs by drinking wine constantly, shelo b'mishpat umida, not in the proper measure and amount, lo yacham, he will not become wise. So I remember there's a footnote of Rabbeinu Yonah where he quotes the Shari Tshuva. Oh, maybe that's what this thing is quoting. Footnote 4, Shari Tshuva.
The last word, lo yacham.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually quote it. It just references it. Hold on, maybe I can get the. Oh no, it quotes it on the next page. How lovely. Oh, I actually have this here. Look on the next page. He says it clear in the Shari Tshuva. I think. Yeah, left column footnote. Looks like footnote Givon, but that's really the.
Oh wow.
V'zeh davar, so it's in the brackets. V'zeh davar kat haletim. So he says there's this is the class of scorners, scoffers. This is what they are. Nechlak haletam achamish halakim. What? Rabbeinu Yonah. Yeah, Rabbeinu Yonah is the author of the Shari Tshuva. So the Leitzim are divided into 5 categories. The fifth category, hamislotis b'davar safatim al hamasim b'hadvarim. Oh, this is a different quote here. Or let's read it anyway. People who mock b'davar safatim al hamasim b'hadvarim. Lo shiavuz lahem belibo. Oh, meaning he mocks verbally. Ach miderech hasmechim lelo davar v'chok haschok. Okay, this is the part I want to get to. This is the only part that was quoted in the other version I have. Sometimes that drinking wine and drunkenness will cause this. As it says, Leitz hayayin home shechar v'kol shogeg bo lo yachtam. Pirush. Leitz ish hayayin home ish shechar kol shogeg bo lo yachtam. Kamo avani tefila ish tefila. Brok lomar. Ki mish hayayin gorn l'shlosh d'varim rayim. Okay, this is the clearer statement than in his Mishlei commentary. So wine causes 3 things. Echad, 1, lios ha'ish mislotet. It'll cause you to mock people. Vasheni, second one, lios home ubad. It'll cause you to be crying out and being like talking too much. The voice of the fool is in an abundance of words. The third one, anyone who errs in it will not become wise. You should know, the trait of Leitzans will not become established in a person's soul until he casts off the yoke of heaven from upon him. Al-Kain, therefore, Ye'anish laseis ol ha-yisurim minik neged mida, and they quote the pasuk from Mishlei. In other words, the pasuk is saying three symptoms. Would that be the correct word here? Or signs of effects of So 3 effects of wine drinking, right? Is you'll give into your Leitz qualities. You'll talk too much, and then that'll bring its own consequences, and then you'll not become wise. Yeah. So the thing that kind of threw me for a loop here is when Rabbeinu Yonah first starts talking, it makes it sound like the subject of the pasuk is late, but then by the end it sounds like he's saying the subject is wine. And today my intuition is clear, but what do you think the subject is according to him? Is it essentially about Leitz, or is it essentially about wine?
I think it's essentially about wine.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like almost like 3 mini psukim.
Yeah.
Wine is destructive in that it brings out like aggressive / arrogant tendencies.
Yeah.
It's destructive because it brings you to talk a lot and like that's destructive like in its own way. And it prevents it from becoming wine.
Right. And the only reason he focused on the Leitz before was because to explain the connection of the psukim.
Yeah. So what is? So then, this is a question that you had raised yesterday. That it seemed that's like a tentative, like
Tenuous?
Tenuous connection.
Yeah.
Things. This is like results, bad results.
Yeah, and you could look much more than that. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Also, as far as like the subject goes, I feel like this sentence I also agree is like wine, but I feel like it's in the context as you're mentioning of Leitz, which is like the subject is still sort of the Leitz.
Yeah.
The literal subject is
right.
The wine.
Yeah. So and that part, like I can live with just the way that Rabbeinu Yonah like does the associative thing, but that the other question of like, I feel like there should be something that unifies these 3 things in a tighter way, because there's lots of bad effects of wine. Like why these 3?
Can you give an example?
Yeah, look what happened to Lot. gone to sexual stuff.
Or Noah.
Or Noah, right?
So,
Yeah. I guess
less aware of your surroundings.
Right.
What's going on.
right. And then anger is another one. Like with the you can people are angry drunks.
Wasn't that Leitz? Like,
Leitz is not angry; he's just aggressive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a difference between those. Laziness is another one that it makes you less inclined to like be involved in, like, it messes up your priorities.
Laziness.
What were the three he said again?
It feeds your late qualities of arrogance and maliciousness, and it makes you talk too much and make you prone to saying things that you regret or saying things that are bad, and then it prevents you from becoming wise. And this is only people, he qualifies at the end, people who drink wine constantly, not in measure, which means that, which, just to clarify this, because it's also related to what Ariel was saying, Ariel the Oracle, that if, I think we have the right to be medactic on Rabbeinu Yonah here. If you drink wine constantly, but you drink it in measure, then you're not in this category, right? Like, again, like Chazal, like they would drink wine with every meal, but they're not in this category, Or if you get drunk once, then that's not going to make you prone to all these three things as a personality thing. It's if you're constantly drinking in an unrestrained way, yeah.
Maybe it's wine insofar as it affects your speech.
Okay.
Because there's the attacking others.
Yeah.
There's the, let's say, like revealing things that you don't want to be revealed, and then there's the lo yaksam, which
yeah, that one's the weakest one, but that's a good realm. Yeah.
Like, also in the pasuk, it actually references one of those three. It says you won't become wise.
Right.
Like, what's the other two?
Well, the other two, I mean, he is trying to interpret it that you will be a Leitz, you'll mock and be aggressively arrogant. And then home, he's saying home means talking too much.
So could that be the 3 points referenced here? Meaning it says Leitz and it says the one who cries out. And then it says one who will not become wise. So the third one matches, and the first one matches. So
that's what he's saying. He's saying all three of them are in the pasuk, are explicitly in the pasuk.
So I'm a little confused on what his idea is.
So what he's actually saying is that these are three bad effects of drinking wine constantly. Is you feed your late qualities, you feed your home qualities, and you feed your lo yachtam qualities. Like all three of them. You'll be more prone to mocking, you'll be more prone to talking, and you'll be more prone to not becoming wise.
The question is really, through this approach, why is Shlomo mentioning these three things?
Yeah, the question is what's the unity of the three? And so the Isaac's saying that it's all speech related, and that applies to the first two, but the third one's a little bit still needs to be explained.
You get ideas through speech.
I was thinking the same thing, but I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, the question is really in the unity.
Because people think in words and not in pictures.
True. I do hold that.
I don't think I think in words specifically either.
No.
We talked about a
That's
study.
the idea, but I just think
Impossible. Uncle says otherwise. Yeah.
We actually were talking
He thinks
the other day that there's studies that have come out that not very related, but like that, like 20% of the population don't have a narrative voice in their head.
Yeah, but I don't think that you have to think in words. I don't think thinking words is synonymous with having a narrative voice.
Okay.
I think that your mind is limited by there's a very close relationship between your mind and your words, and you can't think if you don't have the words for it. Like, you can't think clearly if you don't have the words for it. You have intuitions, but yeah, that is also a topic. Yeah,
I said maybe hard to describe like categories if you don't have like a term for like making a category real in your mind.
Yeah, that's just everything. There's a great Richard Mitchell chapter that I'll send.
Yeah.
About this, but yeah, okay. But let's so this is still a question here. I really want to go to the metaphorical thing. So let me read it to you. It's not in your packet, and then we'll see what we can get from this. And I'm not saying that this is definitely what Zach was saying, but it's the closest thing I found to like a matir for not a union matir, but for Zach to say what he's saying. All right, so where was it? This is Yalkut Shimoni, who says, Amar Rav Ada Bar Rav Kahana Mam. Oh, this is the wrong pasuk. Oh, I'm in Koheles, sorry. I forgot that I switched from here. Okay, 20. Yeah, Leitz Hayayin, Amar Rabbi Zera, Elu Divrei Torah. Okay, so it says Leitz Hayayin, These are words of Torah. Shneimar, it says, "V'shatu biyin masachti." Drink the wine of my my wine party. V'chol hamiflotzitz b'divrei Torah. Anyone who mocks words of Torah, nikra leitz. It's called a leitz. Shneimar leitz hayayin. And it only explains the first part of it, so it doesn't explain the rest of it. But yeah. So first step is to figure out what's the mashal of wine as Torah. We know water as Torah. That's a big thing. Yeah.
I mean, I have heard an interesting thing about wine that it's like the only physical thing that gets better over time instead of like.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like I've heard that too.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, it might not be one quality. Like for example, like wine is yisamach levav enosh, like it makes you happy. And it gets better over time. And it's like chashuv. It's like a significant beverage of all the beverages. So it might not be one thing. So maybe we don't need to do that. But the question is, if you just plug in divrei Torah here, then what is the idea of the pasuk?
Well, you could still say the way I read it, because if you're mocking the wine, so you're mocking the Torah.
Yeah.
So the desire for liquor is you're desiring Torah. Like a guy who's mocking Torah really wants to learn Torah, and it's like a.
So there's a Meiri that supports you. He says it's in on 1:7. This is the thing that the Evilim Yerushalayim Rishi Skaf. Yeah. That fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge, and then Evilim scorn or mock Chochmah and Musar, wisdom and discipline. So the Meiri says that there are 3 reasons why you mock something. So scorning or mocking comes from 3 causes. It doesn't mean all 3. I mean like 1 of 3 causes. The one reason why you mock something is because the thing has little importance in your eyes and it's despicable in your eyes. Because of the thing itself. Okay, this is my knowledge gap in Shmuel. I don't know what it's talking about, but Tavod lo beliba. She despised him in her heart. Anyone know who that's talking about? I don't know.
David, when he was dancing with the arm.
Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah, and then his wife.
Michal, right? Yeah. So she degraded him in her heart because his actions were not befitting. Good call. Yeah. I only know that from the Rambam. That's all my Torah stuff I know from the Rambam. Yeah. Or another one, that one I know. That's from Megillus Esther. Right, to despise their husbands in their eyes. Okay, fine. Second reason, mute erech hadavar etzlo mitzad hisnakruto, is the scorning something because of estrangement. I don't know how to translate hisnakruto here. Davar Hashem baza o mitzad hakina, or because of jealousy. Kamosha amru ma yoshienu zev yivuzuhu. Okay, that's another small thing. Okay, this is an interesting one. That something you despise it because you know in your heart that you're not going to attain it. Okay. Amram, like Chazal say, that if you can't, let's say you can't afford meat, you say the meat is rotten. Klomar mish eno magia shiucha liknos batar mavade osal lifnei acherim lomar shehi musrachat b'chusa umizeh vayibez ezav es habachora. That's the I made a meme of this earlier in the year. Anyone knows Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka, the original movie, right? And so Charlie is like gets like one last gold or one last chocolate bar, and he opens up and there's no gold ticket, and he says, "I bet the tickets make the chocolate taste horrible." Like yes, like mock it, Then he says, and he gives another example of like Esav despising the birthright because he knows he can't attain it, So I'm not saying that's exactly what you're saying, but it does fit in. Like if a person,
that was 2 things, no?
It was 3. It was that he actually views it as not worthwhile. Right. He has jealousy or some other emotion about it, or he knows he can't get it. Yeah. So like there are, I don't know if that, I mean, maybe there's
No, yeah, I'm saying a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying, okay, so like I think the Meiri is saying in the last one with the meat or Esav,
Yeah.
that he feels a certain insecurity regarding that thing in himself,
Yeah.
as opposed to a desire for that thing that he wants to guard.
So play it out in terms of Torah, how it would work according to you. Like, what is the guy actually feeling, and then what is he doing?
In each example, in like each way, or
Oh,
the way I'm saying here?
The way you were saying, yeah, for Divrei Torah.
Yeah, that basically the guy, he has like a certain, deep like intuition that he knows this is what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he knows he should be doing this on a certain level, maybe.
Yeah.
And he wants to, but he has certain emotional or maybe even intellectual blocks.
Yeah.
But instead of like addressing them directly, he just mocks the Torah and just to further like put himself in denial about that part of him that wants to go towards it. Right.
That fits in well, because that's what we were saying yesterday. A brief recap of my whole theory about learning Mishlei metaphorically is you take this same idea that you get from the Pshat and you apply it to the realm of like intellectual development or perfection. So like that's along the lines of one of the ideas we said yesterday, that like instead of confronting your internal world and like addressing that, then you project outwards or you mock it or whatever. Going back to what was your approach again, now that we're
accepting symbolism.
Yeah.
So I guess it was very close to a lot of the ideas we were saying.
Yeah.
But rather than sticking to substances, switching to like substance for like what is actually going on a mechanical level, and just saying like it's the mechanics that he's talking about. So I would say like going to like reading the actual pasuk, that the most flexible term I would say is a cries drink. So I'll like leave that for a second. But one who scoffs at wine is really scoffing a process of internal truth seeking. And so basically he's saying that the path to becoming wise is to do that correctly, to not scoff, but to follow the path of internal truth seeking correctly. So in a way you could like sum it up that like habitual internal reality avoidance is like the topic.
That would be a great acronym: habitual internal reality HIRA. Yeah. HIRA disorder. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to make sure I see how you're reading the pasuk. I hear the idea. So one who mocks truth, internal truth, or just or
internal truth seeking.
Internal truth seeking cries out. How are you reading the rest of it?
So if it cries out for drink, I think there's like
a couple ways to read it. Okay.
Can all work.
Right.
Like,
and anyone who errs in it, meaning anyone who makes this mistake of the mocking, will not become wise. Meaning, if you just repeatedly do this by mocking.
Right. Meaning, like he's sort of saying like this is like a fundamental block you need to get over. Meaning, like there's two steps on becoming wise.
Oh, good, you're alive.
And there's like two. There's like two. So like, in order to become wise, the person needs to confront internal truth.
Yeah.
So the first block to that is not doing that successfully.
Yeah.
But like everybody's like trying to do that. So like that's like an acceptable place to be. But when you definitely won't become wise is when your whole view of that process is skewed.
Right.
Meaning if you're not even engaging in that process and you're just saying, no, like that's for losers, like that's
right.
Like,
yeah. That crosses the line. Yeah.
So now you're not even at the table.
Right. That sets up a complete barrier. Yeah.
So to tie it in more directly with the topic, I think there is like a category of person who is afraid of drinking because it might reveal uncomfortable truth about themselves, where like they're not like comfortable with like facts about themselves, and they don't want to acknowledge that it exists, and therefore they don't drink, but they also, in order to justify that, they will mock it. I think that's like what you're saying. But I think it's like more. I think it's maybe a little more concrete in terms of pasuk.
Meaning not metaphorical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying like a person who is afraid of the internal truth will actually mock wine and drink because they're afraid of like seeing those things and like
Yeah.
you know like drink can like reveal that and then and like therefore they'll it's just
It'll inhibit their progress toward wisdom. Yeah, so I actually do like that point. I don't know that that's like when I read like I might fit into why he used the metaphors he used because like it lends itself to these like additional physical like groundings of the idea. But like to me like he's drawing your attention to mechanism.
Right.
Like he used a certain analogy on purpose, but like there and like because there is like a grounding of how that operates with wine.
Yeah.
But I think he's drawing our attention to a mechanism that we're all dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, like even if you're not specifically talking about wine, you still like. And then if you want, I can like address the cries.
So I don't want because we're already over time. Then let's officially end. I mean, we could talk about it afterwards, but I just want to stop this here. Yeah. Hold on, just one second.